Today at 6, the beginning of 2024 saw the UK economy growing more than expected after it shrank in the second half of last year. It means stronger sales for some, but is this the start of a real recovery?
It does feel like, things are getting busier and picking up again.
I would disagree that we're coming out of recession. I would say we're just sort of teetering.
The murder of PC Sharon Beshenivsky in 2005, a 75-year-old man is jailed for life. Labour sets out its policy on dealing with small boats, saying they'd scrap the Rwanda plan straight away if they took power. Prince William, on a visit to the Scilly Isles, tells well-wishers about Kate's health. While Prince Harry begins his own walkabout with wife Meghan on a visit to Nigeria. And why classes across the UK are being cancelled and schools closed because of cyber attacks.
And at 6:30, an ex-prisoner who killed 87-year-old Thomas O'Halloran as he rode his mobility scooter in West London will be held in a secure hospital indefinitely.
Good evening. The economy grew more strongly than expected at the start of 2024. It means the UK is out of recession. That's when the economy shrinks for 2 3-month periods in a row, as it did towards the end of last year, when people faced higher prices in shops and higher interest rates. The Prime Minister said the UK economy has real momentum, but admitted there is more work to do. Well, with more, here's our economics editor, Faisal Islam. Faisal.
Thanks, Rita. Yes, the recession is now over because the economy, or the goods and services we buy and sell, was officially growing by 0.6% in the first 3 months of the year. That's the highest, alongside Canada in the G7 advanced nations, higher even than the USA. And it's quite impressive by the sluggish standards of the last few years. It is what you might call normal growth. Overall, we still haven't had much of that in the past 2 years. You can see the recent mild recession as those 2 red bars over here. So is this mild growth too? I went to the West Country to see if people and businesses sensed a turning point in the economy. We're better than Roll Quick in Bristol to see a turn up in the economic cycle. The end of recession. It has been extreme boom and bust in the bike market since the pandemic, with changes in consumer demand, suppliers and some retailers going bust. But now, like the economy in general, the brakes are coming off. So from what you can see in this shop, does it feel like we're coming out of recession?
It's beginning to. Right now, it does feel like, things are getting busier and picking up again.
From Bristol's bikes to its butchers, better news from less bad news on the prices of everyday staples.
No, it seems to be okay. It seems to have plateaued a bit, so fingers crossed it shouldn't, we hope, go up anymore. I just hope that prices will stay as they are, to be honest with you, because it's been a tough few years for a lot of people.
Visiting a new investment in MRI scanners in Oxford, the PM says a better than expected economy offers some vindication for his own plan.
So look, it is going to take time for people to really feel better, but I'm confident that today's figures show that we now have momentum. The economy has real momentum. It's hard to argue with that.
There's some arguing that you're being delusional, that you're gaslighting the British public on the economy.
Well, all I'd say is that typical from the Labour Party. It's just being incredibly negative about the country, negative about the economy, talking it down, when this isn't just me saying that. This is the Bank of England governor yesterday saying that we turned a corner. This is the Office for National Statistics independently who has put out these figures that show we have the joint fast highest growth rate in the G7.
Both main parties say they want to fight the general election on the economy.
This is the first parliament on record where living standards will be lower at the end than they were at the beginning. This is no cause for celebration, no cause for a victory lap. My ambitions for Britain are so much greater than merely just coming out of recession, which is all that Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt have achieved.
Hi, John.
Hi, how you doing?
Back in Bristol, on the longest street of independent shops in the country, it's the carpet shop that could really show if confidence is returning.
People are thinking twice when you tell them the full price. They go, OK, maybe just have 3 rooms and not the stairs. So it's not like it was. It's a much harder environment at the moment. I would disagree that we're coming out of recession. I would say we're just sort of teetering.
Across the economy as a whole, the brief recession is now over. Some normal growth is back, but up and down the nation, households and businesses aren't yet fully healed from the economic scars of a tough few years.
And Faisal is with me. Are we out of the woods, Faisal?
Well, it can both be true that we're at a turning point from a low point, and that's clearer in these GDP figures. 0.6% growth is clearly better than having been negative for 2 quarters in the last half of last year. That can be true that we're at a turning point, but it can also be true that we're still have some way to go to catch up from what we lost over the past couple of years. And in terms of how people feel that, it will be in the level of prices in the shops. Inflation rate is due to come down too, but I still think there's a little way to go yet.
Faisal, thank you very much. Our economics editor, Faisal Islam there. Pirandita Khan, who was found guilty last month of the 2005 murder of the police officer Sharon Beshenivsky, has been jailed for life. The mother of 3 was shot dead as she and her colleague responded to an alarm at a travel agent's in Bradford. The judge said that PC Beshenivsky's courage and commitment to her duty that day cost her life. Danny Savage was in court.
He was the man who fled the country to avoid arrest for the murder of a police officer. In 2006, he got on a plane from Heathrow to Islamabad. But justice eventually caught up with Pirandita Khan. He was deported from Pakistan and today given a 40-year minimum sentence for the murder of PC Sharon Beshenivsky, a mother and stepmum killed on her daughter's 4th birthday.
Police Constable Sharon Beshenivsky's courage and commitment to her duty that day cost her her life. The sentence I pass is no measure of the value of the life that has been lost. That is beyond measure, and no sentence I pass can put right what you have done.
This was the scene on that awful day in 2005. PC Beshenivsky had been responding to reports of a panic alarm at a travel agent with her colleague, PC Teresa Milburn, when she was shot dead just after getting out of their patrol car.
The 18th of November 2005 is a date that will remain etched in our memories forever. What started as a happy, special day to celebrate Lydia's 4th birthday was a day that ended with devastating and sad consequences due to the callous actions of Pirandita Khan and his associates. Since then, the 18th of November is no longer a birthday celebration for Lydia and all of us, but now a day of remembrance and memorial.
The court also heard a victim impact statement from Lydia Beshenivsky. She says since the age of 4 there has always been a void in her life, and she remembers her mum as a hero.
All those years ago, 2 mums set out to work. 2 ordinary people doing extraordinary work for the public, protecting them and keeping them safe. One didn't return home, and one didn't return home in the same way.
In the minutes before she died, she was talking about the birthday party later that day for her little girl. The man responsible for her murder will never see freedom again. Danny Savage, BBC News, Leeds.
Sir Keir Starmer says a Labour government would scrap the Conservatives' Rwanda policy straight away. He's been in Dover outlining measures that Labour would introduce to tackle cross-channel migration. But the Labour leader refused to commit to stopping the boats, saying he would not put false numbers on his plans. New figures from the Home Office show that more than 9,000 people have crossed the Channel in small boats this year. That is a rise of 35% on the same period last year. Well, our political editor Chris Mason is in Dover for us now. Chris.
Reeta, the politics of illegal migration, unauthorised migration, asylum seekers, people who've applied for refugee status and are awaiting a decision, even the terminology here of this topic is contested. Now, you know, today I saw in Keir Starmer a confidence I don't think I've seen before. Perhaps those local election results and the defection of yet another Conservative MP to Labour's benches has something to do with that. But confidence alone won't solve the profound problems here in the Channel, profound problems that plenty of leaders have been grappling with for a long time. Dover this morning, the latest arrivals picked up by Border Force in the English Channel. The ambulance a reminder of the perils of a crossing. A few miles away, the man who thinks he has a solution. And just look who's following in Keir Starmer's footsteps. The local MP Natalie Elphicke, who walked into this week as a Conservative MP and ends it sitting with Labour. So Keir's main idea is this.
Border Security Command will bring together hundreds of specialist investigators, the best of the best, from the National Crime Agency, the Border Force, Immigration Enforcement, the Crown Prosecution Service, and yes, MI5.
Listening, responding, the Prime Minister.
As far as I can tell, all the things that we're talking about today are all things that we're already doing. Crunching through the backlog, having more law enforcement officers do more. That's all happening already. We announced all of that more than a year ago.
There is then a battle of ideas and a tussle over sounding tough.
These vile people smugglers are no better than terrorists. They're a threat to our national security and a threat to life. That means new powers that will allow us to shut off internet access, close their bank accounts.
Labour want to use counter-terrorism laws to smash people smuggling gangs, as they put it. But how much difference would this make?
So I think there's an open question here about what precisely these anti-terrorism powers will amount to, whether it will make it considerably easier to police smuggling gangs, and ultimately whether it will have a material impact on getting small boat arrivals down.
Next then, time to scrutinise Labour's ideas. Keir Starmer, you say that you want what you call a border security command. The Prime Minister set up a small boat operational command. What, in practical terms, is the difference?
Well, let me tell you, the Prime Minister's operation, which is good, is a processing operation here, coordinating with those in France about the boats that are actually coming across. But I want something much more ambitious than that, which is to set up a command that will take down the gangs that are putting people in the boats in the first place.
How can you be certain that the government's Rwanda scheme won't be a deterrent? Maybe, just maybe, it'll work.
I think it's a gimmick. I think it's an extremely expensive gimmick, £600 million to remove just a few hundred people, less than 1% of those that arrive by small boats. I do not think it's going to work. I'm not going to come into government, if we're privileged enough to do so, and flog a dead horse at great expense to the taxpayer.
A deeply complex issue over which Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak grapple for credibility and long for solutions, as partial as they may prove to be. Chris Mason, BBC News, in Dover.
In Ukraine, President Zelensky says a fierce battle is underway after Russian forces launched a surprise cross-border attack in the Kharkiv region. Russian forces are reported to have advanced into Ukrainian territory. The city of Kharkiv lies just 25 miles from the Russian border in the northeast of Ukraine. Time now for a look at the headlines, and the time is 13 minutes past 6, our top story. The UK has come out of recession after figures show the economy grew at the start of this year. And coming up, Celtic and Rangers go head-to-head tomorrow in the Old Firm derby.
Also coming up, with part of the M25 motorway set to close again, drivers are warned to steer clear. And lighting up the National Gallery with a special display to mark its 200th birthday today.
Prince William has said his wife Catherine is doing well following her cancer diagnosis. He made the remarks while visiting a hospital on the Isles of Scilly. The Princess of Wales revealed in March that she was receiving preventative chemotherapy after abdominal surgery in January. Our South West England correspondent Jenny Kumar reports.
Sailing into St Mary's Harbour on a sunny day to a warm welcome. The Prince back at work, but there was still time for a pasty.
It means a lot because it's showing that he's still here for the community.
The Scillies are said to be a favourite place for Prince William. He's visited many times, as a child with his parents, then as a husband and father with his own family. Today it was noticeable that the Prince was here on his own as his wife continues her cancer treatment, with many people he met here wishing the Prince and his family well. And local businesses gearing up for the summer season seemed glad he was here.
I think it shows his strength of character, integrity, that he wants to continue his duty.
From the harbour to the local community hospital, where he was asked about his wife.
May I ask how Princess Kate is doing?
She's doing well, thank you.
Lovely, and the children as well.
Children are very jealous that I'm here.
He appreciated the inquiry, and I did wish him well and said that perhaps they needed a little break over here, which he said they might very well be doing.
I might get an inch out of there if you're lucky.
Digging the ground for a new health unit. The Prince headed home with a promise to return. Jenny Kumar, BBC News, St Mary's.
Well, meanwhile, Prince Harry has said it's great to be back in the UK at the end of his three-day visit from America to mark the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games. That's the sporting event for injured personnel which he founded. During a charity event in central London last night, the BBC's royal correspondent Daniela Relf was given exclusive access to the Duke of Sussex as he joined a children's party.
It's nice to have you back. How is it being here?
It's great. Just as the lights turned off. Perfect timing. It's great. It's amazing. What Scotty's is doing with these kids is absolutely incredible and very needed as well. And the more opportunity we get to do these kind of events, the more that families and kids around up and down the country actually know that Scotty's exists, which is really the most important thing.
And nice to be back in the UK.
That's great.
Nice to see you.
Well, earlier today, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex landed in Nigeria on a three-day visit, hosted by the country's defence chief. Simi Jola Osho is in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, for us now. Simi.
Well, it's been a lively day here in Abuja for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. This is the first time they visited Nigeria and Abuja. Prince Harry has always had a special affinity with Africa, but Nigeria in particular is close to Meghan's heart. This visit actually stemmed from a conversation that Prince Harry had with the Nigerian military chief during the Invictus Games last year. But today was all about highlighting mental health. They visited a school where they were enthusiastically greeted by school children, some of whom told me that they were left really inspired by the couple. Serenaded with traditional music and enthusiastic dancers. Greeted by rows of adoring school children. Some the same age as their own children, Lilibet and Archie.
Our son Archie is 5.
The purpose of the visit was to open a mental health summit, but not before more performances from the students.
We have got to acknowledge those amazing dance moves.
Prince Harry encouraged the children to look out for friends who might be struggling.
Just know that mental health affects every single person in the entire world. And the more you talk about it, the more you can kick stigma away, far, far away, into the long grass.
For Meghan, who discovered she's 43% Nigerian thanks to a genealogy test, this trip is personal. She feels an affinity to those here.
You and you see me and you, but as I look around this room, I see myself in all of you as well.
This is one of just a few international tours that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have partaken in since stepping down as senior working members of the royal family. And this trip is really focused on the issues and topics that they're passionate about. And that passion has resonated with students here.
When people like the Duke and Duchess of Sussex come to a school like this and talk about mental health, the children realize that it's a normal feeling to have These are emotions that are valid.
It was really important to me, especially since I suffer with things like depression and anxiety from time to time. And it was really nice that they came up and spoke about it, and they mentioned that it's okay not to be okay. So it was really inspirational.
This is the first of 3 days the couple will spend in Nigeria. Tomorrow, another cause dear to their heart, helping wounded and injured soldiers. Simi Jalalsho, BBC News, Abuja.
Well, joining me now is our royal correspondent, Johnny Diamond. Johnny, the pictures suggest 2 official royal walkabouts by Princes William and Harry, but they're not, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, it really is a reminder of what might have been 2 very popular members of the royal family doing what looks suspiciously like 2 royal tours. Prince William, of course, the Prince of Wales, doing the day job, doing that tour of the Isles of Scilly by himself. Remember, Kate is, of course, recovering from cancer, preventative treatment there. But just look at those pictures of Harry. I mean, at one point in Nigeria, he carried out what looked like a military review at the Defence Department. It really did look like a royal tour. 2 things gave the game away. One, I think, is he was dressed a bit informally for a royal tour, but the other one was that he was visibly enjoying himself, and I'm afraid he just didn't look like that when he was doing the job, and that's one of the reasons he got out of it. The question, of course, is how are things with the family? Now, he was happy to tell the BBC that he was great to be back in the UK, but on relations with the relations, on that he would not be drawn.
OK. Johnny, many thanks. Johnny Diamond there. A man released from prison 5 days before stabbing an elderly mobility scooter rider to death in West London in August 2022 has been detained indefinitely in a psychiatric hospital. 87-year-old Thomas O'Halloran, who used to busk to raise money for Ukraine, was murdered in Greenford. Lee Byer, who's 45, was suffering from paranoid delusions when he attacked the pensioner. A manslaughter plea was accepted on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Further disruption is expected this weekend, with drivers being warned only to use the M25 in Surrey if absolutely necessary. The closure will allow for ongoing improvements to the motorway. It'll be shut between junctions 9 and 10 from 9 o'clock this evening to 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Cyber attacks on UK schools have caused cancelled lessons and weeks of disruption, according to new figures. Hackers are increasingly targeting schools because they hold a wealth of sensitive data but have limited budgets to spend on software and security. The education and childcare sector reported 347 cyber incidents to the Information Commissioner's Office in 2023. That is an increase of 55% on the previous year. Well, some incidents have even forced schools to close temporarily. Here's our education correspondent, Elaine Dunkley.
Could literally see the cursor moving on their screen remotely.
Across the country, the cyber scammers are targeting schools.
The whole thing feels very sinister, actually.
International gangs stealing sensitive data about pupils and parents and demanding money.
They're constantly trying to barrage and find ways of getting into your system.
This is Brockington College in Leicestershire. It has over 1,000 pupils. Hackers got into the system during the Easter break. Every aspect of school life, from safeguarding to school dinners, has been disrupted.
Door locks, CCTV around the schools, the management systems for registers. There are so many systems that are part of schools with technology. In every possible way, the impact is tremendous.
Schools hold a wealth of information, but often have limited resources to stop the hackers.
It feels that, you know, as a school system, you've been violated. You know, there are people accessing your records, your pupil and staff data. Of course, the biggest question is, what have they done with anything that they've taken? Or indeed, have they taken anything?
Once the criminals get into the school system, they demand a ransom, with threats of publishing sensitive data on the dark web.
We're cracking on with all the changes that we need to do to the network.
Granville Academy in Derby had to close for a day this term due to a cyber attack. It could have been a lot worse. The school regularly does practice runs to prepare staff who were quick to respond.
We didn't have any ransomware, for example, that was put into the system. We had to shut the internet down, and we had to make sure people's devices had their passwords reset. You've got to be aware of so many risks and you've got to be in the space that you can think it could happen to us.
What kind of character do you think Romeo is?
In this age of digital technology, resorting to just pens and paper is difficult for pupils and teachers. Homework and resources are mainly on devices.
We use resources on the board, we use videos from like National Geographic to learn. So then we've had to move to textbooks in geography, and we're not getting the level of content that we can have.
Password's not working because, of course, they'd stolen it, and so it had to all be reset. Since the start of the cyber attack, I'm still unable to do some of the homework now.
The Department for Education says it's provided a range of support for schools who are victims of cyber crime, including a dedicated team who are on hand to provide advice in response to incidents. For schools learning to deal with criminals hiding behind screens, there are many challenges. Head teachers are warning more investment is needed, or schools will continue to pay a high price. Elaine Dunkley, BBC News.
A motorbike rider who's in Northern Ireland preparing for the annual Northwest 200 race has had a lucky escape after his bike collided with a crash barrier, catapulting him into the air. The incident happened when Paul Cassidy from the Isle of Man was practicing ahead of the competition.
Everything sort of slows down, you know, I don't know what it is, everything sort of went into slow motion. I sort of tried to think, well, do I go up the coast road? And then I knew I was going too fast, so I couldn't do that. And then I just sort of looked at the brick wall with the padding on it, and I thought, well, that's where we're going, we are going to hit that. It's just a case of trying to miss that and not following the bike in. So yeah, just before I hit it, I sort of jumped off the seat, and then that's what then sprung me in the air. I can't thank the medical staff, you know, the marshals, the whole team around the Northwest has been fantastic. People are amazed by it, how you're still here, you're still alive, you're still walking, you walked away. You know, people have fell off the second run of a ladder and bust a hip, haven't they? You know, I've gone 25 up in the air, landed on a car bonnet, got up and walked away. You know, you can figure that one out.
Now, the Old Firm derby between Celtic and Rangers takes place in Glasgow tomorrow lunchtime. The rivals top the Scottish Premiership table with just a few games left, although it's host Celtic that have a 3-point advantage and a superior goal difference. Chris McLaughlin reports.
Some title run-ins are seared into the memory. When a season can't separate, it's final day delight or despair. In Scotland, it's been a while though. What happens here tomorrow could determine whether or not we get that again. For the first time in a long time, it's close, very close. With 3 games to go, just 3 points is the difference. A win for Celtic and they're all but there. A win for Rangers and it's all square.
Can he get a goal scoring opportunity? Yes, he can!
This was the last time they met. 3-3 in the end. A thrilling game for a thrilling season.
Those are the games when you are a small boy that you want to play. If you see those things on television or in the stadium, you want to be on that pitch.
Well, I think with only 3 games to go, then of course it's going to be significant. So, but for us, it's about making the performance that we want, and if we can do that, we know it gives us a great chance to get the result.
No, we need to go to Celtic Park and win.
Just like Celtic at Ibrox last time, Rangers must play this one with no away fans allowed. The one thing that unites supporters, though, is the view that there's no bigger derby in the world.
I don't think there's any argument about it, and I think people that don't say it is haven't experienced it.
There's a few derbies around the world that are massive, to be fair, right? But it's different here. It's not just about football, it's like it can ruin your whole week.
They say the biggest Old Firm game is the next one. This one in particular, though, could be huge. Chris McLaughlin, BBC News.
Time for a look at the weekend weather with Elizabeth Rizzini. So, Elizabeth, summer is finally here, but you've got something else to celebrate, I think.
I do, yes. It's been all about the sunshine today. Of course, a really stunning day of weather across all 4 nations. But the sun has also been sending out some very strong solar flares. And you may have heard there's a geomagnetic storm on the way. What does that mean for us? Well, the good chance of seeing the aurora, the northern lights, almost anywhere across the United Kingdom tonight and tomorrow. The signal is particularly strong, of course, towards the north, and the conditions are good because the skies will be largely clear. I'll have more of that in just a moment. But lots of sunshine today. Temperatures across the four nations rising into the low 20s in Celsius. Is it going to last through the weekend? Well, the warmth will, and it's still dry for most of us as we head through Saturday. However, the threat of some heavy thundery showers, particularly in the west, just to ruin your Sunday afternoon barbecue, although it will be drier further east. So if we just take a look at tonight then, you can see lots of clear skies around to enjoy the northern lights in, hopefully, but some sea mist and fog just rolling in from the North Sea into parts of southeast England, East Anglia and up through the Lincolnshire coastline as well. But for most of us, it's a sunny, bright start to the day. It's mild out there as well. Lots of sunshine as we head through the morning. And for the vast majority of us, it is going to be a dry day. But if we just zoom into Scotland here, you can see we've got a scattering of showers developing across the south of Scotland, pushing further northwards. There could even be a rumble or two of thunder as well, but it's still warm, still 24 degrees Celsius in Glasgow. Chance of a shower too, breaking out across northwestern areas of Northern Ireland, but still warm here. Lots of sunshine too further south, chance of a shower perhaps across North Wales. A little cooler along that North Sea coastline with that cloud threatening to lap on shore, but 25 or 26 degrees Celsius across the southeast of England. And then the change happens as that high pressure keeping us dry slowly moves away. We've got low pressure rolling in from the west, along with a weather front that's going to bring some heavy thundery downpours across these western stretches of the UK as we head through the afternoon. Maybe a rumble or two of thunder, localised weather warnings in force, but drier, still warm further east. Rita.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And that is today's BBC News at 6. You can, of course, keep up with all the latest developments on the BBC website. Now it's time to join our colleagues for the news where you are. Bye-bye.